Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is SatTV Week. Now I'm pleased to be joined by Colin Mackay of Teledyne Paradise Datacom. Colin, thanks for joining us. We spoke a couple of years ago, but what are the new developments in terms of the products and solutions that you're offering?
So Richard, a few years ago we released our QNet satellite network solution, and at the time we were describing that in terms of things like efficiency and scalability and flexibility. And so were other vendors, and basically over time all of our users have absolutely come to expect and take that for granted. So now the narrative has had to move on, and basically there's pull coming from our customers for new features, including, for example, security. That's a big concern, and also resilience. They want to know that we can mitigate any interference which they suffer from. So it's very interesting. We've had this pull from our customers, but also there's push coming from us, and one of the things we're offering now is support for software-defined networks. Now, software-defined networks is quite widely known about in the IT world, but inside the satellite industry it's actually relatively unknown. And it solves a particular problem in the way that we now access and use data. In the past, what would happen is we had very static fixed networks, and a user would have a computer and they'd access a particular server. And that led to a type of network design which is called client-server design, and it's relatively old-fashioned and static. Now, as people have been changing the way that they access data, and by that I mean cloud computing and mobile computing, it's created a great deal of problems for the industry in general, because now everyone wants to access any data anywhere at any time and from any device. So what has happened in the wider IT world is they've realized they've got a problem, because they have all of these different network devices like Cisco switches and Netgear equipment, routers, or routers as some of our users call them. And so what's happened is these are all relatively proprietary systems. They have their own proprietary management systems for them and command languages. So what happens is we're seeing networks develop which are getting larger, they're always changing, and our users are having to control these networks using a variety of different tools. So in the wider IT world, what has happened is they've come up with standards for controlling network devices. Now, in our industry, the analogy would be waveforms. You'll remember, and our viewers will remember, that in 2004 the DVB-S2 standard was introduced, and 10 years later DVB-S2X. And of course that's been a wonderful thing for interoperability. Now, there's an analogy there with how we want to control networks. We want standards for controlling networks, so that when basically what happens is the hardware gets virtualized away. So it doesn't matter which vendor you're using, you should be able to control it in the same way. And it wouldn't matter if you've got 5 or 10 different types of network equipment, you'll have a common control system for the whole network. And by the way, that's true for whether it's controlling the terrestrial network or the satellite network. Now, as I say, that idea has taken root in the wider IT world, but in terms of the satellite industry, that idea is virtually unknown. So in summary, what we've seen is we've seen some pull coming from our customers for special features like security because of cybersecurity threats, resilience because of the interference we're suffering in our industry, which is a well-known issue. But in addition, this push coming from us, which is we think we can lead our customers to a better solution for controlling networks through software-defined networks. So that's where we are just now. We're adding that support, we're making it available in the very near future, and we'll be discussing that with all of our customers.
Now, what about the issue of bandwidth on demand?
So bandwidth on demand is very interesting, Richard. We have SCPC technology, which traditionally is not known as a strong player in the bandwidth on demand market. What people are more familiar with, I think, is TDMA solutions. So what we offer now is we offer something called dynamic SCPC, and we've taken a completely fresh look at how this technology should work. We've done a number of things. In fact, we've gone right back to basics. we've looked at satellite link budgets and all the underlying assumptions they make about satellite resources and how they get used. And we've had a look to see whether they're actually being used efficiently. That's allowed us to come up with some fairly radical proposals of how to redo link budgets in a way that uses resources more efficiently. And in addition, people are concerned about SCPC because they think when you change SCPC carriers, there's going to be some downtime, you're going to take carriers down, you're going to bring them up, there's going to be some time when the service is unavailable. And what we've come up with is something where we have dual modulators in our products. In fact, we already supported this for various reasons, and so there's no extra cost or complexity from a user point of view. But having dual modulators allows us to be able to do what I would call hitless transitions, where when you reschedule or change the bandwidth being available to a remote site, then actually there's no loss of any data and no downtime as perceived by the user because of the fact that we're able to generate two carriers at the same time.
Now, at the moment, the satellite industry is going through a lot of change and there's some disruptive technologies coming in. What's your view on that?
So you're absolutely right, and that disruptive technology has been around for some time now. That we're talking about high throughput satellites, we're talking about the SpaceXs and OneWebs, and of course what happens is when the user base out there hears about all of this, it confuses them. They don't know if they should wait or go ahead and put systems in place. And so in a circumstance like that, it creates uncertainty. And our response to that was, it's very hard to push new things when that's happening in the industry. And we took a different approach, which was cutting costs and cost reduction and things like this for a period of time. So even if there was a downturn in the industry because of lack of a well-defined way forward, then we could always find that our margins were sufficient to see us through in difficult times. Now what I think has happened is we've turned a corner. I think we've certainly seen uptake in terms of a lot more quotes this year than ever we've done before, which is now coming through into additional revenue. And I think that's to some extent true of the industry. So we're probably heading now, I think, to a period where there's more definition. We're seeing large LEO constellations going up. HDS is definitely a reality now. So in general, I'm fairly upbeat about the industry. I probably wasn't last time I spoke to you, I seem to remember. But I think we've turned a definite corner in terms of the technology and the appetite in our industry for going out and doing big deals again.
Colin, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, Richard.